Hi there. Hi there. Welcome to the TGIF Business Networking Hangout. I'm your host, Melanie McDonald, Brand Identity and Outreach Strategy Consultant. We've got a great show today. We're going to be discussing healthy eating for better business, how your diet can affect your mood and your productivity at work and make you feel better all the way around. Our special guest is Pamela Ziemann. But we've got another person here in our film strip today, so as usual, let's get the introduction started with the Peanut Gallery. Christopher, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
I'm Christopher Pearsall. I happen to be a Rhode Island divorce lawyer, but in the middle of my life, I'm transitioning to becoming a peak performance coach so that I can help people in order to excel in every area of their life. And I happen to see this being broadcast, and it was brought to my attention by Pamela, and I know that good eating is a part of a positive attitude and lots of energy, so I wanted to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And
Thank
our
you.
special guest is Pamela Ziemann. She created a program called Elemental Cuisine, which we'll be learning about today. Pamela, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what got you interested and what you're doing with Elemental Cuisine.
Okay, well, thanks for having me, Melanie. It's really great to be here. It's funny because I was thinking the other day about when I was in college, and partying and everything. And, you've been there, you feel like crap the next day. And so I was thinking, you know what? If we eat better and we have a business meeting the next day or we have a presentation or something like that, what we eat today will affect our tomorrows. And I was, working at a CSA, a community-supported agriculture, and we got all this produce. And so I was just like, I didn't want to throw it away, so I started eating all of it and juicing all of it, and there was so much that I felt like I had so much energy. And I thought if people just knew about this, how much energy they can get, true energy, not fake energy from, a can or caffeine of some kind, but true energy, they're going to be able to live their true life purpose because they're running on their innate fuel and nobody else's.
That's awesome, and I know what you mean. Those days of waking up hungover and paying for it, having fun one night, but then paying for it for 3 days after are no fun. So
right.
This way, when we eat healthy, we just feel good afterwards, which is kind of nice.
Yes, I was just out at Indianola Organics, and they gave me all kinds of microgreens. They're superfoods. You get the most nutrient per calorie. And so, of course, I didn't want to throw all those away. And I'm juicing all this wheatgrass, and I'm, pea shoots and all this stuff, making soup out of it. And I'm like, I have so much energy, but it's my energy. You know what I mean? It's not from an outside source. And I also, as well as helping people transition to more of a plant-based diet, I like to help people really tune in to what their purpose is, what their true purpose is, and it's all related. It's amazing how food relates to your life purpose and your energy and your authenticity and your awareness. Like when we make the connection with what we're actually eating, we can make more connections in life. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. I've been doing this, well, I've been vegetarian since the 70s, but the more you learn, the more you know there is to learn about this lifestyle.
Well, that's awesome, and I have a feeling that we'll get a lot of good questions today. I hope we'll get some good ones because it's a topic that a lot of people are interested in. I've noticed that food awareness is growing on my social feeds that I watch and I belong to. I see a lot more posts about healthy eating and nutritious recipes. And so if anybody has any questions, please post them in the event page for the TGIF Business Networking Hangout in the comments there. I'll look there. You can come in and join us. The join link is in the comments. Just scroll down till you find it. And also, if you're on Twitter, use hashtag TGIFBNH for TGIF Business Networking Hangout. And this is something new, so I'm going to try to do a real good job of looking for that hashtag, but please don't, please be forgiving if I miss something. There's a lot of stuff a host has to do, and this is a new thing I'm trying out today. So,
You have to be an explorer. It's just like food. You have to be an explorer. I mean, I
yeah,
had a really
exactly.
diet. I was like, pretty much everybody, when we were led to believe that convenience is the way to go, I'd go to a grocery store and just pack up because I didn't want to go back again. So it was all this packaged food. And
Right.
I felt like I started to gain weight. My skin started to look like not as bright as it was. And I'm like, what's going on? I was a skinny rail in high school, and now I'm putting on weight. But it's just that my body didn't know what to do with it. So, genetically modified organisms, all that, it just stuffs it over there. It's like, this isn't real. I don't know what to do with it.
Well,
So,
that brings up a good question because you mentioned GMOs and you mentioned processed foods and packaged foods and ready-to-go foods. So first of all, what is your definition of healthy eating? Because I think
my,
that's a pretty subjective term. So for purposes of our show today, what is your definition of healthy eating?
well, my definition of healthy eating is what, like, for example, doesn't come out of a box. Something that this was picked from a garden. Most people don't realize how they actually cut it off. And so anything that is in its natural state, I like to eat as much live food as possible because this is still alive. And so when I ingest that, it brings me more life. So healthy eating to me is whatever you would eat in nature. If you can go out and pull a carrot out of the garden and eat it, great.
Right. Okay. I agree with that. And I've actually, in the past few years, incorporated a lot more of that kind of food into my diet. In fact, that picture I posted in the event listing is like a typical meal in this household. And I do feel a lot better. And is it just my imagination or do my taste buds change? Because I taste things, I feel like I taste them so much more now.
Oh, isn't it amazing? Like, just for people who are like, man, I don't like salads. I never used to like salads at all. I would run away from the salad bar. But that's because my body was so acidic, and the more alkaline we get, the more these foods like this kale actually taste good.
Oh, yeah.
And how I did it was I just started putting a little bit of spinach or some greens into a smoothie, and then your body will start wanting more of those foods. So you don't have to pressure yourself or eat stuff you don't like because your body is very intelligent and it will start to crave the really good stuff. But in the beginning, I know my dad is just like, you eat this stuff, it's just like it doesn't taste good to him at all. And it doesn't, I don't know, for me anyway, it didn't in the beginning. But now, like you say, it's amazing how our taste buds change.
Well, I think there's also a myth out there that eating healthy and making home-cooked meals means that you're slaving in the kitchen for hours. And I don't find that to be true. And in fact, I made it a point for it to not be true because I'm just not into slaving in the kitchen for hours. I like quick meals. And one of the things you mentioned is one of my three basics, and that's smoothies. I mean, throw
Uh-huh.
stuff in a blender, press the button. It doesn't get easier than that. The second thing is a nice big wok or frying pan for sauteing up my veggies. And the other thing is a rice cooker.
Mhm.
Throw the rice in, put some veggies in the steamer tray, press the button. 20 minutes later, you have this great healthy meal.
Yeah.
So what are your tips for making it easy to make the transition for people who are just like Christopher, who were wanting to make the transition but kind of need small steps?
Yeah, I'm totally on board with you because elemental means basic and simple. One of the things I think you need is a really good knife, a sharp knife, so that you can cut things and it's actually a joy in the kitchen.
Yeah,
Don't run with this.
no.
But when I went back to Minnesota, I found that nobody had a good knife. And even my mom in her kitchen, I'm like, well, no wonder it's such a chore to be in the kitchen because it takes forever to cut through this stuff. So to make it easy, for me, my personal experience is I went to culinary school. You don't have to do that, but I did start to play with all these recipes, and it was very time consuming for me. But I needed to go through that stage of it to really understand how to cut the vegetables and how to do this stuff. And now, like one of my favorite meals now is I steam broccoli and I just dip it in hummus. It's so easy and it really is satisfying too. So I think the key is to prepare the vegetables ahead of time so that when you get hungry, because we all get hungry, you're going to have something ready to go. And just replace things. Don't say I can't have this or I can't have that, but what can you replace it with? Like, I don't know, I just really love this raw coconut water. It's raw and I love how I feel after I drink it. Sometimes people get the canned coconut water that's got, other stuff in it. It's just not the same. So if you can go raw.
That's a great point. I know someone who wanted to kick the soda habit, and he really loved his Coca-Cola. He liked the carbonation and the sweetness, but he knew how horrible it was. So he actually switched and started buying just plain soda water, unsweetened on anything, just plain soda water, and then buying juice that is 100% juice, and then mixing it together to make his own sweet carbonated drink that was basically carbonated soda water and juice, which is much healthier than buying any commercial brand soda out there.
Yeah. It's so true. We got to have a replacement rather than eliminating. It's like once you get into the plant world, there are so many choices. It's like I don't even know if I'll ever have time to make all of the really great things I want to make because there are a lot of choices, but people are kind of in the mindset of, well, I have to give up this or I have to give up that, but it's like just replace it with other things.
Great tip. I want to say hello to Blair Warner who came in. Hello, Blair.
Hello, am I unmuted?
You're unmuted.
All right.
Hey, Blair.
I forgot to turn on the
That's okay.
when they come in. Uh-oh. So anybody who comes in, be quiet when you come in, okay? Blair, would you like to give yourself a little introduction?
Yeah, I'll just give my usual introduction. It's interesting that I'm here because next to my children and next to my business, health and nutrition is a very important subject. So I'm happy to be here this morning. I'm Blair Warner with Upgrade My Credit. I'm the founder and senior credit consultant, and you can find out all about me at upgrademycredit.com.
Awesome, thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, your skin looks good, Blair.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you can usually tell. I noticed.
I'm 75 years old.
I just had my 82nd birthday.
There you go. There you go.
I'm not giving away my age. Christopher, I'm going to go to you for a minute because you expressed your, you actually said in public on video that you don't have good healthy eating habits and you want to learn. So do you have any questions that are, newbie questions to someone who wants to learn about eating healthy?
Well, I think one would be, how do you find a balance? Like, I mean, different fruits, different vegetables have different things in them, and I would imagine since Pamela talked about the alkalinity of your body, that you're going to want to find a balance. How do you find that balance? I do notice that I've tried to get off sugar. Sugar was a huge thing for me, and trying to get off it instead of putting 4 huge lumps of sugar in my coffee to actually eliminating coffee and trying to eliminate coffee and trying to eliminate the amount of sugar I put in my bloodstream. It's been difficult. It's getting easier, and I notice a difference in my taste buds, but I'm still not eating fruits and vegetables, and I know that's wrong.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are studies, Christopher, that say that getting off sugar is as hard as getting off heroin. So, it's like none of us can really beat ourselves up. We're in this system that is loading us with, excitotoxins and MSG and all of that stuff. And it's a chemical reaction that sometimes we say, oh, I should have more willpower, or I should, we start beating ourselves up. But just to recognize that it's a very, very strong addiction, I think is part of it. And just to be kind to ourselves. I'm really into how can we make this transition as easy as possible So if you tried some things like, I like to use the coconut nectar, which is a sweetener, and it's like a nice one. A stevia is good, so you could have some other options other than the refined white sugar. You know, even if you went to brown sugar for a while, and then you went to honey or something like that, so you could go more in the direction of natural rather than so refined.
And I think that when you start, you know, eating more fresh foods, more of the, like she showed us, the cauliflower, the vegetables and the fruits, that your taste buds really do change, and you find yourself craving those kinds of sugars less, and craving the good, wholesome, organic, you know, real foods more. I've gotten to the point now where when I'm baking, for example, or cooking, and the recipes call for sugar, I find that, to me, the recipes are all like, they want a whole cup of sugar, and I'm like, ew, you know, I don't want a whole cup of sugar in there, and I usually have it or less, and to me it tastes a lot better that way. But, you know, I didn't start out that way. I have a little bit of a sweet tooth, so I think that came over time as my diet got better and my tastes changed. Would you say that's the case, Pamela?
Yeah, I think that's the case, because a friend of mine, when I was like hooked on chocolate and I needed chocolate every day, it seemed like, and she just asked me, are you eating enough fruit? And I thought, no, actually I'm not eating much fruit at all. And the more I started to incorporate a variety of fruits in my diet, then that craving went away. It's still very powerful, you know,
Yeah.
but it less. And I also wanted to address Christopher's question about the acidity versus alkalinity of our bodies. And it depends, like, I think it was Chris Carr who said that most Americans haven't had any alkaline foods in their bodies for months. And if you think about fast foods, if you drive through, the hamburger is acid, the bun is acid, the fries are acid, the Coke, if you get that, is acid. If you get a milkshake, it's acid. And the apple pie, the fried apple pie or whatever, all of it's acid. And so, you know, it's a very stimulating food. Acidic foods are very stimulating, so we want more of that. And alkaline foods have a more mellowing effect. And she's, you know, she is in remission now from cancer because of increasing the amount of alkaline foods, and she went 80-20. So 80% alkaline, 20% acid, because we still need acidic foods. So it depends on your body. I think if you just want to get healthier and you're feeling pretty good, probably 60% alkaline and 40% acid, you know, is a way to gradually get more into the alkaline foods. And if you Google alkaline foods, pretty much any leafy green is alkaline, you know, and most fruits are alkaline and herbs are alkaline. It's the meat, dairy, grains, those are more acidic. But if you soak them, they're not as acidic. So.
Well, you, Pamela, you have your program which is called Elemental Cuisine, and you relate the foods to the four elements. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and what does that mean exactly?
Yeah. Well, you know, I've always been a nature girl. I just love, love, love nature. So I'm like, how can I incorporate nature into my business? And so the earth, water, fire, and air, it's balance, like Christopher was saying before. It's about balance. So let's say, for example, what kind of foods do you need? If you're going into a meeting, for example, tomorrow, and you want to be grounded, you want to really have a strong presence of who you are, what you're about, your foundation, you want more root vegetables because they're very grounding. It's more earthy. You know, if you need more passion in your life, more fire, you know, you want some spicy foods, you know, you want some live foods. So most foods have been traveling for, you know, 3 to 4 days before they even get to you, and the nutrients are dead. So if you can get from a local farmer where it's recently been harvested, you're going to get the live enzymes. It's going to make you feel more alive, more passionate. And then the water element is about, you know, water is about nurturing ourselves. Water is very emotional. So many of us, especially the last week, if you've noticed, have been under a lot of stress. Pretty much everyone I talk to. So with stress, we don't want to numb out our feelings. And many of us numb out our feelings rather than getting the real nurturing that we need through, you know, those foods. Most of us have had an emotional food that we're really tied into. We feel better. Mine was mashed potatoes, you know, but what could be even more nourishing than that? How can we really nourish ourselves for the emotional aspect? And then the last one is air. Air. It's like, I read the other day, it's like you have the mental clarity of a donut, you know, or something like that. And most corporations, like, well, they're getting a lot better now. I got to give them that. But when you eat donuts and things like that, we know with kids, when they eat a lot of that stuff, we become dull. And our mental clarity, it just is so hard for our brain to really function. Our brain needs oxygen. So it's not just the food, it's like, how well are we breathing? Maybe we should all take a breath right now. Maybe I should take a breath. But how much air are we getting? You know, how much good fresh air? I am so blessed to live in the Olympic Peninsula because I can go to the rainforest and I get high on the air out there because it's so pure and so fresh. So oxygen is going to be in fresh foods again. You know, raw foods, it's going to have more oxygen, which is good for your brain. So those are the 4 elements, and we can, you know, there's a balance with those too. Like, for example, I'll just take the earth element. We can be too grounded. Sometimes we're so grounded in our ways that there's no fluidity. There's no flexibility anymore. So it's like you might need less root vegetables, you know, or, you know, you want a balance with that. With the emotional content, you know, you just want this balance so that you can be real and vulnerable, but you're not, you know, in control of your own emotions, and you carry that into meetings, for example.
Wow, that is so interesting, and it just sounds like it makes so much sense. So what's the process? How do we know where we are and what we need? So if someone goes into your program, do you like start out with a questionnaire or something?
Yeah, in my programs, I do a couple different stream of consciousness writing because I really believe people have all the answers they need within themselves. I'm just a guide, and I have these specific prompts, and one of the things that I really love is this free-form writing, stream of consciousness writing. And if you keep pushing yourself and just keep writing, not thinking about it so much, but just letting yourself go, you will get your own answers. And then we start to go into what is true intuition as far as what your body needs versus an addiction, you know. So what is nourishment versus I gotta have a coffee, or I feel so much better when I have this, or if I go through a fast food I just feel better. I was at that place many years ago where I had so much work to get done. It's just like, well, if I just drive through and I just get some kind of energy, I'll be able to make it to the end of the day, and I'll be able to get my work done. But that was an addiction, and that was just, you know, fueling my body with energy, not true nourishment. So that's part of what we do, because I love for people to really tap into what makes them feel alive. I want more alive people on the planet. I want to feel more alive. You know, like you, Melanie, and everyone who you just see and they feel so alive. It's like that is what the world needs most, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. And you know, I notice also another one of those things, I didn't do the fast food thing, but if I have a job or a project I'm working on and it's something I don't really want to do, it's not my favorite thing, I will like, oh, I want to go have breakfast. Oh, I want to go have lunch. And it's more about avoiding what I really am supposed to be doing than anything else.
Right.
That's food, like a whole other topic, though. That doesn't really have to do with food so much, does it? That's just...
Well, I think it does in a way, because if, you know, I do a 10-day class cleanse 4 times a year, and when I do that cleanse, I'm getting super nutrient-dense food. It's like 600 calories of the most nutrient-dense food you can get. And I realized sometimes in the beginning that I was grabbing for food, but I wasn't really hungry. So I think, like you say, that avoiding or just, you know, like out of habit or whatever, that's a huge part with food. Because at the end of 10 days, I've got energy But like day 3, day number 2, number 3, it's just kind of like, oh, I want something, I want something. But when I tap into it, I'm really not hungry.
Right. I
So,
see you have this. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Was that you, Christopher?
yes, I was just going to ask Pamela a question. So Pamela, if you, on particular times when you may have a down day, it seems like what you're talking about is comfort foods. What is your comfort food? I mean, you've got tons of energy right now. I'm wondering what you had before before this HOA, but
Nothing.
you can answer that if you want. But I'm wondering what your comfort food is.
Okay, well, first I'll answer what I had today, and that was a smoothie. And I had this wheatgrass, and really I do feel a lot of energy with wheatgrass, plus talking about this topic, and people who really want to learn about it, I get a lot of energy from that. And as far as my comfort food lately, you know, my comfort food, I'm really, like, I love chai, but I'm trying to get away from that caffeine. So I've been drinking this coconut water. And even though this is kind of expensive, I still go back to this because it makes me feel so good, and I feel like I'm nourishing myself. That's one of my comfort foods. I like smoothies. You know, I think a little cocoa with frozen banana and a little bit of Brazil nut or any kind of milk you have is really good. I mean, the mouthfeel tastes really good.
Awesome. So for me, I have a comfort food that's something that I've been eating since I was a little kid. It's called salmon because my mom was from Hawaii, and in Hawaii they call it salmon, but a lot of you out there know it as ramen noodle soup. Not what you consider nutritious and healthy. You go to the store and you look at those ramen noodle soup packages and they're crap. I did find a brand that is made from heirloom wheat, non-GMO, and has better ingredients. But I can still get my comfort food because what I do now is I just make it myself. I make the soup broth. I use vegan vegetable broth and add some fresh ginger, some tamari, some rice vinegar, and some hot stuff, and then throw the vegetables in. So I still get my comfort food, but I've replaced, like you said, not Diane, sorry, Diane, Pamela, replacing the crappy, you know, buy it in a package with the same comfort food, but made from the more organic, healthy ingredients.
Right,
and
right.
that's a good trick.
Top
Because then
ramen,
you have
like
like
the,
your,
sorry.
Thanks.
The top ramen, when it's like 10 for $1, you know, like you could pay now or pay later. And with that, it's got all kinds of MSG. It's just loaded. My little niece loves that top ramen. And my mom said, well, she doesn't like the other stuff. And I'm like, that's because the other stuff doesn't have the excitotoxins in it. And who's buying it for her? So just stop buying it. I'm like, I'm kind of like a, you know, a hardcore person when it comes to little kids especially. It's like adults, you make your own decisions. What, you know, it has consequences, but you make your own decisions. But little kids can't pay. You know, they don't have the money to go in the store. So who's buying the stuff for them?
Right, and you're setting their habits for life because, like I said, that's been my comfort food since I was 4 years old, and it sticks with me till today. It's still my comfort food. So that habit that I got into when I was 4 is lifelong, and if I ever had to give it up, I'd be really sad.
So true.
I think you're absolutely. What's that, Blair?
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
Okay, this is for Christopher's sake, okay, because it seems like he's the newbie of the group as far as, you know, eating healthier such a, you know, more of a routine and part of your life and lifestyle. And, you know, that's where I was 15 years ago, Christopher. And one thing that helped me, you go back to the comfort food thing, I personally believe that if you set out a very healthy, and you can tell me, you know, what you think, Pamela, but if you set out a very healthy lifestyle, stock your cabinets and everything with the healthy stuff, and you can follow a healthy lifestyle 85% of the time, then that gives you 15% there if you do want the ramen noodles or you do want the, you know, and I think if you can stick to it 85, 90% of the time, you're still going to get really good benefit, compared to just saying, I can't do this, it's overwhelming, I know I'll fail, so I'm just not going to worry about it. What do you think about that?
Well, personally, I think that's fabulous to stock your cabinets with really, really good stuff. And then cut yourself some slack, too. You know, like we can't be so hard on ourselves. What about Christopher? Well, like, what is a comfort food for you?
Frozen yogurt.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Luckily, I get fat-free, but unfortunately, I binge on it.
Do
So
you, do you happen to have a high-speed blender?
yes.
Okay. Like if you had frozen bananas and you put whatever fruit in there with frozen bananas and you whip that up. Have you ever tried something like that?
My wife gave me something the other day, but she wouldn't tell me what was in it. It tasted good. It tasted good, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to ask what was in it for fear that I would not have it again. But it was delicious. I certainly know it had some kind of fresh berries in it or something, and she told me something about she was going to make me one last night with bananas in it, although not frozen. Are you talking about actually taking the bananas and freezing them?
Oh yeah, you unpeel them first and you cut them up in little pieces, throw them in your freezer, and the next day take them out of the freezer, put it with some fruit and a little bit of almond milk, whatever, and it's just like ice cream.
Yeah.
Have it for breakfast.
Oh,
Bananas,
now we're talking.
my favorite is bananas, peanut butter, or peanuts because it's in the blender. A little bit of almond milk and some berries, and mango. Mmm.
That sounds good.
And then if you do like throw in a little handful of spinach, honestly, you don't even taste it with all that fruit in there. If you can go like 70% fruit and 30% greens, then your body is going to start wanting more greens just naturally on its own. You don't have to force it. It'll just say, hey, that's fuel that I want.
You know, that's interesting that you say that because I am at a point now where if I don't have my greens for a couple days, I feel it. I mean, I crave greens. I don't crave, you know, the candy and the sugar anymore. And in fact, at Halloween, I was going through the stores looking at all that candy thinking, Halloween, it's a good excuse to buy some candy. And none of it was appealing to me because I know too much about all the crap they put inside it now. And I didn't even buy any. So to give myself a sweet treat instead, what did I do instead? I made myself a vegan chocolate cake. But again, using the recipe where I like cut the amount of sugar in half, and I use the dark cocoa, which is really good, and it's a vegan recipe. So I knew what all the ingredients were that go inside it, and there's very few ingredients. And then my other favorite chocolate fix is vegan chocolate mousse that you make out of an avocado and some dark cocoa powder and some, almond milk, and you just blend it together, and that's it. It's delicious.
Yeah, tell your wife about that one, Christopher. Avocado with chocolate. People never guess avocado's in there.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Oh, I certainly wouldn't guess it.
I have a question for you, Pamela, and a lot of us suffer from the crash and burn effect. We'll have lunch, and then after lunch we'll go back to work, and we'll find ourselves just kind of drooping at our desks from that crash and burn. So what causes that, and what are some things that we can do to try to make that go away?
For me, my answer is I set a timer for 15 minutes and I take a power nap through that time, because I know it usually hits me around 2:30 or 3. And so rather than going for some convenience food or something, sometimes we need less food. Not always. It depends on each individual person. But for me, I know if I can just get through that, and it's almost like saying to your body, I'm taking care of you, don't worry. And that's what I do, and it's been really helpful, surprisingly. So like I said, each person's a little bit different.
I have had that same experience. I used to get the crash and burn really, really bad when I was eating more processed foods and prepackaged foods. And then when I started eating more healthy, actually just real foods, I still get the crash, but it's very, very less in intensity than it used to be, and I give myself that permission to take the 10 to 15 minute power nap, and then it's done. And before, it used to last like an hour. So I haven't mastered making it go away, but it's a lot more controllable and work withable than it used to be.
You probably eat the nori sheets. Have you seen those nori sheets? It should have. But anyway, those are so loaded with minerals, and most of our soil is so mineral deplete now that we're craving minerals. So if I take one of those and I just cut it up and eat it, it's like very few calories but very high in protein. That has been really helpful for me, and I give one to my dog, and she loves it. You know, if you give something to your dog and they don't like it, you know, she loves it because of the mineral content. They need minerals too. Our animals are really suffering from lack of minerals in our soil.
Wow.
You might try that. Try nori strips and nori sheets. You know, the kind that you roll up a sushi with?
Yeah, I actually have them in my cabinet because I like to make homemade sushi too. Well, vegetable sushi, no fish.
Yeah.
But
I like vegetable sushi.
sushi's a fun thing to make if you're ever looking for something new.
Yeah. And if you want portable food, something to go, you take a couple sheets and, you know, that can be pretty easy too.
Now, Diane is saying in the comments here that people flop because they don't eat protein in their breakfast routine. Diane, do you want to turn your microphone on and tell us a little bit about that? Let's see if she can do that.
See if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because most time people in the mornings, they get up, you know, and everybody's talking about healthy foods, fast foods. They talk about the best fast foods, the banana, an apple, or something like that. Well, yeah, it's wonderful. So they grab a banana when they walk out the door. Well, it's full of carbs, full of sugars. It's going to process quickly. They don't have any protein added to it. That's why a really good smoothie, a blender, that kind of thing. Add some flaxseed in there, ground it up, throw it in there, that kind of protein if you're going to do all of that without things. Now, I'm a big boiled egg person, you know. So I do the whole get 2 dozen of eggs, you know, organic, free range. I always put that out there. So I take one and I boil the whole dozen, and that is my morning. So if I get up and I need that fast little break of going somewhere and I don't have time to make that smoothie, then I just grab a couple of boiled eggs, grab a piece of fruit, and I'm out the door. I'm good. And it holds me over until lunch. I don't get the whole thing that I need a snack and run by the Circle K or the fast food place and grab a French fry or any of that. So you stay satisfied until you eat your good lunch, and then you can eat whatever you want. So like a big salad with some black beans in it, because people are eating a lot of salads and they don't want to eat the chicken. They don't want to eat that. And I'm a meat eater, so I eat chicken and cow and all that stuff. But I'm just saying, but you want to back off on some of that because a lot of people just the proportions is too bad. They just eat too much. But you can always add, like, get your salad and add black beans in there and all that kind of good stuff. Sprinkle a little flaxseed on there. You're good to go. So that's the biggest thing. People fall down, they flop because they get up in the morning and they do not have any protein in their diet. So in 2 hours, whether you're eating healthy or not, your body's going to say, feed me, because they done used all that good stuff, you know, if you're active.
So when I used to work at a place where I went to work like a regular job, I would take a banana with me in the morning. My spouse made me start making a piece of toast with some peanut butter and put the banana on that so that I would get the nut in. And I think that was exactly for that morning boost. And not
another really great thing is chia seed. If you put a couple tablespoons of chia seeds in your smoothie, I was surprised because I like to eat and I'd be hungry like at 10 o'clock or something, but when I had a couple tablespoons of chia seed, I was good till noon. It's very filling, and if anybody wants to lose weight, it's excellent for that because you're just full. It's got a lot of fiber in it too. So.
Pamela, I see you have this wonderful display behind you.
Yes.
Is there anything that you wanted to show us back there?
Sure. I will show you a really simple treat. This is a cucumber, and I like to slice it up on the diagonal. And if you get hungry throughout the day, why are we so interested in buying things in a box, you know, from a convenience store? I've taken cucumbers before and I just eat them. But you have this, you have a little bit of cayenne pepper on top, you have a little bit of Himalayan salt, and you've got a really good snack. And that took me like, what, 15 seconds?
Yeah.
So it's just, yeah, like having the stuff available and ready to go, because this tastes just as good. You know, I'll do the same thing with a pepper. I'll just cut up a pepper and, you know, cut little strips. Maybe I'll have some hummus, maybe not. But just this, and just be prepared, because I know I'm going to be hungry, and most people are going to get hungry. And so if you have something ready to go, it just makes it so much easier. And this, look at how beautiful this is. I mean, I was never really into making things beautiful, you know, and the extra little tomato rows or whatever on the top. But since I went to culinary school, I really realized that that is so important, because we want to be fed visually. We want the stuff to look beautiful. And that helps a lot, just to really care for ourselves. Because one of my big things is, how can we care for each other, not on a superficial level, you know, what kind of clothes do I have, what do I look like, but at a really, really super deep level, like to really nourish ourselves at that level.
I like what you're saying, and when I start making my meals and I start out putting all the ingredients out, I like to think of it as what rainbow am I going to eat today, and getting those different colors in. But what I really want to point out is what you said about, you know, how long did this take me? 15 seconds, and why do we always want to eat out of a package? And I really think that a lot of that is due to, you know, our cultural brainwashing based on all the marketing we've been exposed to. You know, we grew up in times of TV when there wasn't the internet, it was just TV, and everybody watched the same 3 channels, and everybody got exposed to the same radio stations. And over and over again, we heard commercials for cereal and packaged this and packaged that, and that's what was ingrained into our brains.
Totally.
And it's just an awareness thing. I'm so happy to see that on Facebook and Google Plus and everywhere else. I'm seeing so many more recipes that are healthy, and things like what you just did back there. That was beautiful, and it was awesome to watch you just take that sharp knife, like you said, nice sharp knife, and 15 seconds have those cucumbers and that beautiful red pepper and these colors and textures, and yeah, yum. And it's just because it doesn't automatically enter people's minds because of the marketing that they've been exposed to all their lives.
Yeah, and we were inundated, like in the 60s, you know, they had all these ads specifically to housewives going, you don't want to spend your time in the kitchen, that's drudgery, you know, and that's, you know, such a drag to be in the kitchen. I think a lot of us still have that floating around our consciousness about such a drag to be in the kitchen. You know, we got to make it fun. We got to totally make it, you know, put on some really great music, some world music or something like that. And I like to get into the rhythm just when I'm chopping things and make it more fun and just get that old mindset. I just want to be free. You know what I mean? I want to be free of corporate control, and there are billboards everywhere, and they put so many millions of dollars into advertising, making us think we need milk. Now, I'm from a dairy farm, and my dad was on the board of directors for the Mid-America Dairymen, so I can say this stuff. They put millions of dollars to make us think we need milk from another species. And since I'm into nature, it just doesn't seem natural to me. Right. You know?
Right. Well, you know, when we grew up, it was 4 food groups. And now as adults, we realize, well, it had nothing to do with nutrition and everything to do with those industries being in bed with the government and paying them to tell us that we need those 4 food groups. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So Gosh, thank you so much for coming on and telling us all those things. It's already 9:45, so let me go to our peanut gallery down there and see if anybody has any last questions that they want to get in. If you do, oh, Blair came back, so I'm going to assume that's a yes. Was there anything that you wanted to ask now that we're getting near the end? Make sure you get in.
Not really a question, no. It's just great to see. I want to commend you because it's hard work, I think, to make it well and have an impact in this industry, because you look on the internet and there's so many websites and so many sources out there about how to eat this and healthy and diet and all this kind of stuff. And it can actually become overwhelming and confusing. So I just commend you for making that a mission, to get out there and do it.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Blair.
You're welcome.
Christopher?
Well, I didn't have a question so much as just saying, Melanie, thank you for having Pamela on, because she's got so much enthusiasm about it, and she's given me a lot more ideas, bringing up smoothies, which kind of takes away the idea that I have to eat a whole head of lettuce or something in order to make a change. It's a really great idea, and it makes it easier for me to do things in smaller steps. I've already tried migrating over from sugar to stevia, and that's working well. I can feel my taste buds changing. I wasn't quite sure exactly why it was, but I think by indoctrinating the greens and the good, the good fruits and vegetables that are alive, I think I'll feel more alive rather than feeling sluggish during parts of the day when, frankly, I think I should have a lot of energy.
Right. And Christopher, do you have any outdoor space to grow your own plants and vegetables, for example? Because I think that also when you grow some of your own food, it makes it a lot more fun and interesting. And then when you can, you start it and you watch it and you nurture it, and then you go and pick the vegetable, the harvest, and then you go and you take it in and you're grateful for it and you eat it. It makes that whole experience so much more wonderful and makes you appreciate the vegetable stuff more.
I do have space. Unfortunately, I found out that my younger brother is the one who has the green thumb, and I have the killing thumb. I tried for a couple of years, and whether it be the soil or what have you, my brother has tried to guide me through it, where he gives hundreds and hundreds of pounds of fruits and vegetables to the shelters each year, and I'm lucky if I save a tomato.
Wow. Well, gosh, that's funny, because I was going to suggest the tomato plant, because you can grow them in pots pretty easily.
Another thing that's really, really simple, and I love, Melanie, that you bring this up, because once you start growing it, you really appreciate everything so much more. But just sprouts. Like, I'll throw some broccoli sprouts in. You just soak them in water overnight. You just get a screen, a basic screen, and rinse them twice a day. You can't go wrong, Christopher. I know you could do this. I know you could. You just put them in there and, soak them in water overnight, and then drain out the water 2 times a day. You rinse them, and within a couple of days, you're going to have these live sprouts that are 40 to 50 times more nutrient dense than broccoli itself. Isn't that amazing? And so I've been growing a lot of microgreens lately. Microgreens are so beautiful. Put them on a centerpiece, it's like I used to have flowers all around. Now I just have microgreens, and I can eat them too. But start with the simple ones. I went through a book, and I wanted to set myself up for success. And I said, what are the most easy microgreens to grow? And I'm going to grow those. I'm going to get the really good soil and really good seeds too, because sometimes people can get a poor batch of seeds and then they have a failure, and then it's too easy to give up and just say, well, I can't do this. But you can. You just got to maybe try a couple times, try with some really easy stuff, and sprouts are super easy.
And I take my green onions from the grocery store, and instead of throwing it away when I get to the end, I stick them in the water and not in the water, in a little pot of soil, and they just grow new sprouts. So that's like not having to try from seed. It's taking something that already has a little bit of roots at the bottom. You can do that with leeks and green onions and some other things from the grocery store.
Yeah.
Diane, do you have anything that you want to add before we get to the 10 o'clock hour?
I just think that this has been a wonderful discussion, and I'm loving that, Pamela. I know you're a vegetarian in that, because I have a lot of followers that are vegetarians, and I'm, the meat eater. So, so it's really wonderful because, like Lauren's out there, and if she ever sees this broadcast, Lauren, we were just talking about and she's total vegetarian. I was talking about how the additional, what can you add into their diet that's not normal, like, they're trying to eat healthy, they're trying to eat raw foods and all that kind of stuff, but what other herbs or that kind of thing would you add to them? I mean, we talk about the black beans, and we don't know if spirulina in it? I can't even say that word.
Spirulina.
Yeah. Which one has the most protein power for them, to throw in their smoothies or salads and that kind of thing?
Yeah, spirulina is very high.
Yeah. So I just think it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I think it's one thing everyone can agree on, because we hear all these different things all over the place, but pretty much everybody agrees more greens, more vegetables. I mean, who doesn't agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. What is spirulina?
Spirulina is like an algae.
So it's kind of like a superfood, one of the superfoods?
Super nutrient dense, and I just made some of these little spirulina bars. I wish I had them to show you, because they're just little round, they're packed with all kinds of like dates and superfoods and cocoa and spirulina. You don't even taste it in there, but you eat one of those, it's like, yeah, you feel energy.
I make a lot of sprouted tofu dishes. Sprouted tofu is supposed to be the best kind that has the least GMOs and other bad things attached to it.
The least amount of processing with that. So tempeh is probably one of the best things you can have for tofu, and the soy isolate protein that's in a lot of these protein powders, you really want to stay away from that, because that's just a process, byproduct that they're trying to get rid of, basically.
Right. So we eat a lot of this sprouted tofu, but we throw in nuts, a handful of nuts in whatever the meal we're making to give us a lot of extra protein pack.
Yeah. And if you can soak raw nuts, it's even better. You get more nutrients by soaking them overnight. It's pretty
really?
easy.
Oh,
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be soft and great for cooking.
And the water you drain off, once you see that water, it's like I never want to eat sunflower seeds without soaking them again, because it's really murky, and it's the enzyme inhibitor, and so that's what you're releasing when you soak them overnight.
Oh.
And at first I thought, that's way too much. God, I can't do this. My life is already too busy. But once you start doing it, it's like a no-brainer. It's so easy. It's just shifting our mindset.
You're right, because you know what? I used to, before I started enjoying cooking, I used to look at beans, dried beans in bulk, and think, what? You have to soak it for like 8 hours? No way, no way. And then I realized, well, soaking, what? You put some water in it, and then you set it aside before you go to bed. And the next morning, and I do it in the rice cooker. Again, rice cooker is like my best friend. I put it through a cook cycle, and then they're done, and it's easy. And you can make just huge batches. You can freeze them so that they're easy to cook later, and they make a great soup base. And for the vegetarians and vegans out there, I really used to miss corn chowder, because in the corn chowder it always had like creamy stuff in the recipe. So instead, now I'll make a batch of white beans, navy beans, and add a little bit of almond milk, and then I'll use that as the base for my corn chowder. So there's all kinds of great things you can do.
Right, and it's very empowering. I just want to leave people with the fact that, whatever you're doing now, awesome, just keep going this way, because it's so empowering to know that you don't have to buy things out of a box. We become more rigid and more like inflammation, all that stuff. So the more you can just keep going toward the raw, natural foods, it's empowering because it's way more than food. I mean, food is just like the beginning point of this because you feel like, hey, I'm taking charge of my life. I'm watching things if you're growing them. I'm knowing how to just cut up a cucumber. And there's something about that that is extremely empowering. To me, I feel like I'm not being controlled by the system anymore.
Right. And you're just eating energy. You're eating a little package of energy right there in that cucumber,
Right.
which is awesome.
Well, like Jerry Seinfeld said about the Pop-Tart, he said, you know, it can't go stale because it was never fresh.
Right. Oh my goodness. We are at 5 minutes till 10. So actually, Pamela, I'm going to ask you now because this is the end of the show. Tell us a little bit about your Elemental Cuisine program. Where can people learn about it, and how long does the program take, that sort of thing?
Yeah, they can go to elementalcuisine.com, and I have a lot of free videos. I can just sign up for those to give them an idea. And then also I have a 5-week program that's at your own pace, and they will learn everything about, you know, getting enough protein. People always say, are you getting enough protein? But most people don't know how much they need, you know? So how much you actually need, because most people in America are getting too much protein. Most people don't know that's taxing on their kidneys and everything. And they're going to learn about dairy substitutes. So if you really like the you know, cheesecake or the cheese or whatever it is, what are some really amazing things you can do in place of that? You're going to learn about mindful eating and reading labels to really know exactly what you're getting. And yeah, so it's loaded with a really easy transition. If you want to eat more vegetables or if you want to go all the way, you can do it with that program.
Is this an online learning program, and do you do workshops on location in person in your area?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, in fact, I just did one, and people are just always so amazing. You see the people who come together, like the people who are on this film strip, and in the replay, it's like there's no coincidence why you happen to find this video. And so I do in person. I love that, and I love online too because you can reach so many people. So many people, kindred spirits all over the world who really want to go this way.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pamela, for being with us today. It was a great conversation about healthy eating, and I think it's just so important a topic.
Well, thanks for having me. And if you have any questions, shoot me an email. It's all right there on my website. And thanks to all of our guests for coming today. It was really fun to play with you guys.
Thank you. Yes, thank you to everybody down there in the Peanut Gallery, Blair, Christopher, Diane, and I'm your host, Melanie MacDonald. The TGIF Business Networking Hangout is broadcast twice a month on the first and third Fridays at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Please join us. The next show will be on Friday, November 21st. And I'm always looking for great guests. So if you have a great topic that would be interesting to a small business audience, it can be about health and nutrition, as you saw today. It can be about how to use WordPress. Anything that is especially important to solopreneurs and small business owners, please contact me. We are a newbie-friendly HOA, so if you're also kind of shy about wanting to be on camera, you can come in like Diane did and not turn your camera on and still ask your questions and participate. And I'm always opening the green room early so you can come in and get a little comfortable before we go live. I love to help new people get interested in HOAs. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.